Chapter 23. Laney sighed as she walked to her car. It had been another long evening prepping the students for a tournament tomorrow, but she finally felt they were ready. Now she just had to make sure she was in bed before 10 p.m. so that she would be able to function the next morning. She pulled into the driveway of the small rental and turned off the car. It was a cheap Honda, but it was hers. Nancy had been kind enough to give her rides for the few weeks she lived with them. But finally, Laney had saved enough to not only purchase the cheap Honda, but to make the deposit on the rental house as well. The landlord, being a friend of Erin's, had given her a month-to-month lease, knowing that she would be moving in with Tyler after the wedding. Laney could hardly believe that was only a few weeks away. She pulled out her keys to open the front door and dropped them in surprise when her cell phone began ringing. It was probably Tyler wanting to wish her good night since she had missed their nightly dinner. As she squatted down to grab her keys, she punched the button on her cell. "Hello? Is this Laney Swann?" Laney's fingers grasped the keys and she stood. This was not Tyler. "Yes, this is Laney Swann. Who is this?" "My name is Madeline Perry, and I'm the head of Perry Modeling Agency. Peter gave me your name and a glowing recommendation. I'm looking for a makeup artist, and I'd like to interview you." Laney's hand froze on the doorknob. A modeling agency? This was the call she'd been waiting months for, but her wedding was in a few weeks. Could she really start a new job now? Besides, she had a job, one that required her to be at the school at 4 a.m. Still, this was her dream. Could she really turn it down? "I would love that. I have to be somewhere tomorrow, but I could take a few days after that." "That would be perfect. Give me your email address and I'll have my assistant send you the flight information." The woman was going to pay to fly her for an interview? This was even better than she dreamed. Fantastic. She rattled off her email address, thanked the woman, and then hung up the phone. Laney couldn't believe she had finally gotten an interview. She would have to tell Tyler, but it could wait until tomorrow. Tonight, she needed to grab some food, brush her teeth, and crawl into bed. Tyler tried to keep his face emotionless as he listened to Laney tell him about the job interview. He knew this was what she had always wanted, but he had hoped she had found fulfillment working with the kids at the school. Perhaps it was selfish of him, but he didn't want her working in California. He wanted her here, with him. "What do you think?" Her eyes pleaded for him to be okay with it, and Tyler knew that's what he would do. He had told her father he wouldn't expect her to stay at the ranch if she didn't want to. Now he was having to back up those words. Tyler picked up her hand and rubbed his thumb across the back. He was so afraid, but he couldn't tell her that. He couldn't say he didn't want her to go because he feared she might never come back. He couldn't say those words, not because he didn't think she couldn't handle hearing them, but because it wouldn't be fair to send her off with his fears. Tyler could see she had her own fears she was dealing with. There was no need to add his own. "I think it's a great opportunity," he said slowly. Would this be the last time he got to hold her hand like this? He should relish the feeling just in case. And I think you should go. Interview, at least. I told you that I didn't want to hold you back, that we would make it work no matter what you wanted to do. If you get this job, it'll make it a little harder, but nothing is impossible." She scooted closer to him on the couch and placed her hand under his chin. He had kept his eyes down as he spoke, and she lifted his face now until they met her gaze. "Thank you, Tyler. I love you. I know you're scared, but I feel like I'll regret it if I don't go." He nodded, wanting to speak, but not trusting his voice around the lump that had begun to form. He didn't want her to have any regrets. If they were going to marry, and he hoped they still would, he wanted to be sure it was what she wanted. Her eyes remained on his, and he knew she was seeking reassurance. He cleared his throat. "Well, we should probably pray about this. Your safety and God's will to be done." "That would be amazing." He took both of her hands in his. They had done this nearly every day, but today felt different. "Lord, we thank you for this time together. We don't always understand your will, but we seek to follow it. Help Laney to know if this is your will for her. Open doors if it is, and close them if it's not. Grant her safe travels and—" His voice caught. He was about to say, "Bring her back to me," but this was Laney's prayer, not his. After she left, he could pray those words all he wanted, but right now he wanted this to be about her. However, he had no words for what to say next, so he ended lamely with, "Amen." When he opened his eyes, he could see hers glistening with unshed tears. He had made her happy, and that felt good. He just hoped it wouldn't be the last time. The old saying, "If you love someone, let them go," fluttered through his mind. It was easier said than done, though, when all he wanted to do was pull her against his chest, wrap his arms around her, and feel her heart beat against his. "I better go pack," she said, and ran a finger under her eye. He saw the shine of wetness on it before she turned away and pushed herself up from the couch. He followed to stand beside her. "Do you need a ride to the airport?" The thought of driving her there killed him, but at least it would mean more time. She shook her head and fidgeted with the cross around her neck. "No, she's hired a car to pick me up. Royal treatment, I guess you could say." He could think of another word: bribery, bait, enticement, but none of those sounded as nice. "All right. Well, call me when you get there so I know you landed okay. I guess I'll see you in a few days." "Yeah." He pulled her into his arms and placed his mouth against her neck. "I love you, Laney." "I love you too." And then she was gone, and for the first time in months, Tyler felt the monster awaken inside of him. It clawed about his stomach, seeking a handhold to use in order to crawl out. Tyler reached for his phone and punched in the number he knew from memory. "Aaron, I need you."